Arm yourselves, America. This is Defenders Live.
Hey, here comes the danger up in this club. When we get started, man, we ain't gonna stop. We gonna turn it out till it gets too hot. Everybody sing, hey, tell them turn it out till they can't no more. Let's get this thing shaking like a disco ball. This is your last warning, I'm gonna see go. I am not afraid.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Defenders Live is on the radio. Woohoo! Dylan Lyles, Steven Airey.
It is. It is.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us, man. We really appreciate it. It is Wednesday.
It is.
Woohoo!
It's a wonderful day.
Midweek. I don't know why I'm so excited about it, but I
don't
am.
know. I mean, I think I know why that you're excited about tonight, but it's
Absolutely nothing has happened today.
Nothing
out
has
of the
happened.
ordinary at all.
Nothing has happened today.
I am a little, before we get started too much, I did oil my chair, and I'm irritated that it's still squeaking. I may have to invest in a new chair. I soaked this sucker in WD-40, and nothing.
Oh, that's terrible. That is not good. You shouldn't. You should be doing a lot better there.
It went away like for 10 minutes, and I came back, and it's...
But you know what? Before we get started, let's talk about Minnestalgia. They've been having cabin fever since it's been snowing. And they've been snowing for quite a while. And so it's just now starting to break. You can see the sun cresting over the hills. The tree tops are finally releasing the snow.
Yay. It is the first day of spring, too.
It is the first day of spring, too. So go to Mojo Wild Rice. Go use the code SPRING10. And you can get 10% off of everything on the Mojo Wild Rice site, whether it be their waffle mixes, their wild rice, their pepper jams, beer jellies, whipped honeys, any of their awesome products. It is there on the site. Go check it out. 10% off. Use the promo code SPRING10 at mojowildrice.com.
Yay.
So, Dylan, why you giddy, buddy?
I'm excited. Okay. So, as Steven and I have been doing, the month of March is the month of Mojo. We have been trying to bring on some of the other talent that is on board and part of the Mojo family.
Yes.
And tonight we are graced by the one and the only Sam Sorbo, and I am so excited because I'm gonna sound weird and like fangirl for a moment, but like ever since I have been home and homeschooling my children, she has become like my hero.
Aww.
So, with all that said and all the gushiness, Miss Sam Sorbo, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm feeling very heroic. What did I do to deserve that accolade?
You're a homeschool mom, and that's to see. He plays Mr. Mom now, so
I do. I'm a stay-at-home dad.
I'm a mom. And do you know Beto got into big trouble for calling his wife a wife? Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you're in for calling me a mom?
As long as he doesn't have to talk to Kevin about it later.
This is true. As long as I don't.
No, actually, that's my proudest title.
Mom.
That's awesome.
That is
Mom to three fantastic children. My children are so amazing. And you know what bugs me now? It bugs me when I watch like TV shows or movies where the woman is like so frazzled and can't take care of her kids, and it's so hard. And I don't know, man. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't connect or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and oddly enough, and this is the man talking about being the mother of it, but no, I'm just saying, like, staying at home, like, it's just like granted, I'm all about working and taking care of the family, but I've had so many people ask me since I've started doing this, they're like, well, how does that make you feel about her doing all this and making all the money? And I keep telling them, I'm like, there's certain things that make a family run. The bills have to be paid, children have to be fed, house needs to be maintained, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These things have to be done, and it doesn't matter necessarily who does it.
It just has to happen.
As long as it gets done in the end, that's really all that matters. That is really the only part about of a marriage and a family that makes it like a 50-50. You help each other. When one slacks, you there to pick it up.
Right.
And I've never, it just irritates me so bad because I get that all the time of, well, what? How do you feel? I feel good. I get up pretty much when I want to and can take a nap if I want to. You can't, you know.
Are you sure?
No, I am lying about that. I don't take a nap, and I definitely don't get up when I want to. But I could if I wanted to.
If you planned it.
If I planned it right, yes, which means I would have to keep them up really late.
You got to work those things out beforehand.
Exactly. But I can still do it. Exactly.
So, Sam, we have, I just want to know, you're a Duke University kid.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of, kind of. I mean, you went, you studied there for biomedical engineering, but then you went on to modeling and acting and thus, what happened? What was the career shift? Why the career shift?
I was raised to get a degree, you know, go to college, get a degree, get a career, and then maybe get married. And there was I felt a lot of pressure. So I started working on an ulcer in college. So I decided to take some time off because I just couldn't handle the stress.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started modeling. And after a year of modeling very successfully in Europe, I went back to school, but I kind of went, wait a minute. So I can actually support myself doing something that's kind of fun, travel the world, learn foreign languages, and I don't have to do all this stressful stuff. And that's when, of course, I got my best grades ever because the stress was off so I could study. I mean, I was a horrible test taker. I sat in front of a organic chemistry test and didn't write anything for half an hour because I couldn't make my hand work. You know what I mean? I was so stressed out.
Wow.
And mind you, the student that I studied with aced the exam and I got a C. I mean, it was ridiculous, you know.
Mm-hmm.
When I went back to school, I realized that like the stress was gone. I made the best grades ever, and I went, wait a minute, I don't actually have to do this. I can do everything else that I want to do, or I could continue to do this one specific thing. And I was headed to medical school and all that, so I just decided to do everything else. Never looked back.
That's awesome. That is all, because I thought I was the only one who thought about it like that.
Kind of a long-winded answer. Sorry about that.
No,
but,
that's
you
perfect.
know,
That's great.
That's what
there are certain times in life when you recognize that you have a binary choice. And, you know, we're telling young women in particular, but we're telling youth that they can have it all. And and the fact is you cannot, because there's always going to be a sacrifice. There will always be a compromise to be made. And sometimes it's a binary choice. And you shouldn't do both, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very lucky that I recognized that early on. And since then, I've had a few more binary choices like that. And I've been very blessed to recognize them for what they are and be able to make the choice that was the right choice. And in hindsight, definitely made the right choice.
That is awesome. That's amazing. Because like I said, not a lot of people everyone is nowadays especially are suckered into this idea of, well, you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, you have to do this. And I've never understood. I never went. I did go to a brief stretch in like a community college, but I was homeschooled my entire life. So the only public schooling I ever went to was couple weeks of driver's ed and about 3 years of community college during high school.
God bless you.
Right.
That was it. That's all I've ever done. And then I went to the military, and I've been doing everything else outside it ever since. But I've seen so many people go into massive amounts of debt for degrees that they have nothing, you know, they're not doing anything in them. And I keep asking them, I'm like, why?
Right.
Why did you do that? And they can never.
Right.
Oh well, I want it. And they never can give me a straight answer, like a real straight answer. And it's sad.
Right. Well, they were sold a bill of goods, and so Amy Klobuchar had her town hall or whatever it's called, and there was a student who stood up and said, "I just graduated with a ton of debt. Will you guarantee free college for kids?" And she looked at him and said, "Yes, I understand. The debt in this state is averages $36,000." And he said, "Yes, it's absurd." And so I have to ask you, if it's absurd, who's the idiot who's paying it, right?
Yep.
If I say to you, I just bought this lemon of a car, and they say, well, what did you pay for it? And I say $58,000, it's absurd, right? But I'm the joker who paid the money.
Exactly.
So my point is, we're sending our kids to college, telling them that somehow it's worth the money. Everybody agrees that it's not worth the money.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it. And that's what's so exciting about this latest, the scam that's been happening at our Ivy League universities, where they're taking money to accept students who are not good students. And don't you know that will tarnish their brand, I'm hoping irreparably, because honestly, our institutions of, quote, higher learning are nothing of the kind.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of young people graduating with completely worthless degrees. It is absurd because they're graduating with worthless degrees that don't translate into the real world.
No, never.
Nope.
I mean, if you have a degree in things like underwater basket weaving, Nintendo studies,
yeah, there was one I saw, a legit one.
Whatever.
Yeah, there was a legit one I heard about a guy who had $100,000. His diploma was $100,000 in Spanish. $100,000. He got like and he wasn't going to be a teacher. It was just something about Spanish. It was $100,000 he spent to learn Spanish.
And let me tell you, it doesn't cost $100 to go over to Spain or go down to South America and learn Spanish.
Right.
It's substantially less than that.
Well, I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I was never in a public school, but don't they teach Spanish in high school?
Yes. They give you the option of Spanish, German,
it's free.
or French.
It's free, but you don't really. I mean,
you don't really learn it.
I've never met anybody who graduated high school fluent in a second language that they just studied in high school.
This is true.
Yeah,
this is true.
I mean, you can get Rosetta Stone
and
be fluent.
By the way, it's true, and I've learned a little bit of Russian that way. My assumption is that he is fluent in Spanish, but all bets are off. He probably isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know
He probably isn't fluent at all. He can read it, but he can't speak it.
Yeah.
Something that's stupid like that.
You can ask where the bathroom's at. That's about it. So you always know where the important stuff is. You ask where the bathroom's at. That's the one
yeah,
you
you
walk
know
up
what?
with.
Parents have to wake up and see that our institutions, our educational institutions, are failing us. Most specifically, and not just the Ivy League, but all the way down the line. I had a gal on my show today who was talking about. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple of years ago, there was a little boy in a kindergarten class, and on the last day of school, they had a transitioning ceremony for him.
Yeah.
Wherein the kindergarten teacher read the book I Am Jax, which is a book about a trans boy who becomes a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then after she read the book and explained everything to these incredulous young people who 5 and 6 years old.
Of course.
This little boy went into the bathroom of the kindergarten and emerged as a girl. And I don't know if you heard, but the fallout from that, I mean, the woman that I had on the show today said that her daughter was in the class and she was bathing her the next day or that night or whatever, and the girl saw her slicked back hair in the mirror and started screaming that she was turning into a boy. Mommy, I'm turning into a boy. I'm turning it. God. We're traumatizing our children, and they're starting as young as kindergarten because they've been emboldened.
Oh yeah,
and we need people. We need people to step up and run for the school boards because they are still elected positions.
Yep.
School boards are definitely elected positions. It's crazy. Well, you have these situations where these people are doing this. Not only are they emboldened by it, but they're actually pushed to the point to where they feel like they have to do this now. They have to do this to be this. This is the next step in their.
It's part of the American dream.
It's part of what they're going to do now. Forever and ever, they're going to continue doing this crap, and that's just how they're running the system now.
Mm-hmm. Sad but true.
You mean the people in our schools?
Yes, the people in our schools. This is what they see as they see this as the next step.
All of your teachers have now graduated from our Marxist indoctrination camps of how to teach schools, right? The teaching schools.
Yes.
And so they're basically, not all of them, but a lot of them are basically on board with this, and the ones who aren't are cowed into submission because the system is geared this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's high time that Americans wake up and wrest back a little bit of the control, or a lot of the control, frankly. We're going to lose this generation. Look at why do you think more young people voted for Bernie than for Hillary and Donald combined. And now Pelosi says, oh, let's lower the voting age to 16. Why? Because teenagers are so clever with and rational in their thoughts? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I'm tired of how the school systems are being ran. Another thing that you can enjoy, I know I enjoyed, it takes my mind off of this crap, is Tar River Arms. I know Tar River Arms is the America's first virtual gun store, making it easier, more comfortable than ever to purchase your firearm online.
Mm-hmm.
They're modernizing the online
to
firearm
relax,
sales.
Go and do their 3D thing?
The 3D thing, yes, it does have the 3D thing because, today it's 2019. I mean, brick and mortar is gone, folks.
Well, sort of.
It's true.
Sort of. Brick and mortar is gone until May, and then TRA Guns is also going to have a brick and mortar shop in Wake Forest.
This is true. This is true. Guess who's going to be standing in line when that door opens?
Me.
Me.
They're right down the street from us. We have to go.
They are. I love
the
it.
deal.
So we might have to do like a.
We're gonna have to do a show from their shop.
Yeah, exactly.
You know that's gonna happen.
Exactly. But anyway, until that point, they have weekly specials that eliminate shipping and broker fees. You order, you pick up, no additional fees going on. Great guns, prices, and service. Also veteran owned and ran. Layaway and consignment options are available. Go to traguns.com. That's traguns.com. Tell them that Steven sent you, because that's how they know it.
That's
we
how
haven't
they know
had
it.
it changed
That's
yet.
just how it's set up. We haven't got it fixed yet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm sorry. It's just how
It's
it got
fine.
fixed.
It is what it is.
Jeez, so obviously we're over here. We're talking back and forth, and we've done a little bit of this this duo tag team thing. You used to have a tag team duo, or do you still have Flashpoint Live?
Oh gosh, no, that was years ago. I started with Flashpoint Live with a co-host, and we did weekends. We did 2 shows. We did a show Saturday and a show Sunday for a couple hours each day, and that lasted almost a year. And then Andrea, Tanteros, walked away from her show, and I happened to be standing there, and they asked me if I would sit in for her. So eventually I took over her nationally syndicated show, and I did that for 3.5 years.
Nice.
3 hours every morning.
Very nice. So you just kind of be right place, right time.
It's seriously, it's a funny thing, God works in mysterious ways, and I don't have a good explanation for it, because if you know anything about me, I'm more of a person who's in front of the camera than behind a microphone, in a sense.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of odd that I found myself behind the mic, but I did love it. I had to give it up when I produced our first film that we did as a family called Let There Be Light, and that came out at the end of 2017, and
great film,
it did
by
very
the way.
well in theaters. In fact, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
It is really good.
It is good.
It's streaming on Amazon Prime and Christian Cinema, and of course it's on DVD and all those things. So
oh yes.
So that was great, but it was too much for me to do that and the radio, and so I stepped away from the radio for a couple of years, and then Mojo came and asked me if I wanted to get back on, and I said, heck yeah.
Duh. I mean, come on.
They did
So
that. They
it's
did
fun.
that for us too, of course.
Talk about politics and religion, because they're the only 2 things worth talking about.
At this
Religion
point,
is
it's the
who we
only
are, where
two
we're
things we're
going,
not
and
allowed to talk
politics
about.
is what gets in our way.
Well, yeah, those are the 2 things that nobody wants us to talk about anymore. So they're the things that we have to talk about: politics and religion. We have to be able to talk about our faith, and we have to be able to talk about the politics and the culture surrounding it, because really it's the culture that affects the politics, not the other way around.
Yep.
Darn tootin', as they say. Absolutely correct.
Exactly.
And don't you know, that's why we've got the PC crowd. That's why they don't want you to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
The reason that they don't want you to talk about it is because when you come at them with the truth, they can't handle it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
If you
of
control
course.
the language,
Mm-hmm.
then you control everything at that point.
That's right.
And
The moment you control the language of everything, you control how somebody thinks if you can control the way that they speak.
Yep. It's another form of slavery, if you ask my humble opinion on it. I mean, it is. It used to be chains. It used to be whips. It used to be, sometimes at the point of a gun. Thanks to social media, you don't need any of that stuff anymore.
It's just your words.
Exactly. Like social media and words and the stuff that people throw around now, man, I think I would argue do far more damage than any weapon or any regime could ever done. I go back to, oddly enough, speaking of Duke, you remember back during the Duke lacrosse case, like with those 4 guys that were accused of raping that girl, and
the whole false accusation thing.
Yes,
that's still problematic for them in their lives.
Yes, to this day they still have nothing but, other than the school debt that they have no jobs. Nobody wants to hire them. It's all destroyed. And that was right as social media was coming on, not coming on, but it was in its very early stages. You can imagine what happens now.
Oh yeah.
So I don't. Anyway, it's one of them things, man. So it got me thinking really bad there.
Do you have a question there, Dylan? I mean, do you have a question that you want to ask her?
I have several of them, and I'm half looking at the clock. Sorry,
don't worry about the clock.
That was my bad. So you wrote a book, A Teach from Love.
I've written actually more than one.
I'm looking.
My first book was about my little dog, called Gizmo: The Legendary Journeys. It was a picture book,
nice.
Photos, just for the. And then, but most recently, my real bag is home education, education in general, specifically home education. I seek to empower parents to make the decision to educate their children themselves. It is the healthiest choice for the family, I believe. And so I wrote a book called "They're Your Kids," to stress to parents that their kids still belong to them and they should still be the ones in the authority seat. And what parents don't realize is that they cede their authority when they drop their kids off at school. And the school is happy to usurp their authority and then basically throw them under the bus.
Yep.
Rhetorically speaking.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say it that way, because that was exactly because like I said, I was homeschooled my whole life, and that was exactly the way I explained it to my wife when I said I wanted us to homeschool our boys. Was, we send these kids off, we send them off to these schools for 8, sometimes 10 hours a day, depending on before school care and whatnot. I said, and then we have them for maybe a couple hours in the evening times, and we have them on Sundays, and I'm like, or on the weekends, and I'm like, that's not a lot of time to try and counter all of the negative that they're being fed, and not just the curriculum, but bad habits they're picking up from other kids and everything else, and
the stuff that the teachers are teaching them.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, we don't have hardly any time. I was like, we're going to lose them, and so that's how we got on into it. That's my big question is, so what was it, at what point did you kind of go, homeschooling is the route I want to go? Because that in and of itself is a very rare thing. Especially in the Hollywood type life. What was it that kind of, what point did you just kind of go, this is what I want to do?
Well, so my son was we actually moved to our house for the schools, because that was the community that had the best schools and stuff. And then in second grade, I was disappointed with what was happening in the classroom. I spent a lot of time in the classroom. I was the art teacher for our class, and I helped the teacher, and I graded papers, and I took the kids to the library. I was the guilty parent, volunteering for everything, right? Mm-hmm. And still, after 5 months, I asked the teacher how my son's book reports were, and without batting an eyelash, she said, "Oh, not very good." Now, mind you, I spent a lot of time in the classroom. I talked to this woman several times a week, and never did she volunteer anything. I had to ask, and that kind of ticked me off. And then I started to make excuses for her because I didn't want to be mad at her, and every excuse made her look worse. So I stopped that, and I started doing book reports with my son every day after school.
Let me hold you on that, Sam. We're hitting a
cranky and hungry.
Sam, we're hitting a hard break. I'm gonna hold you on that for just a second. We're hitting a hard break. Hold on.
All right.
Sorry.
Sorry about that, Sam.
Sorry.
No,
That was
no
my
problem.
fault. I was looking at the
Totally
clock going,
set
do
me
I
up
have
there.
time to ask this question? And I was like, oh, all right, go for it. Why not?
Dylan's having so many problems over there, man. I tell you what.
It's not problems. Like I said, it's nice because, like I said, it's weird for me in my place, and I'll go into this more again, probably on the other side. But it's weird because I've always carried around this odd stigma, telling people that, and seeing the shock on their faces, that I was homeschooled my entire life. I've never been in public school, like I said, other than for driver's ed. And the little bit of community college. I've never been in a public school, so I have no idea. And
well,
it's
you're
just,
blessed.
Ma'am?
You're blessed. Are we on the air, or is this?
I mean, we're on Facebook right now, so the people on Facebook will hear and see this going on, but the main show is running the commercial break right now. Yeah.
They won't actually see me though, because I'm in my PJs, right?
Right. I have a picture of you.
Yeah.
I have a picture posted. So.
Okay, good.
Don't feel bad wearing our jammies too.
Shh.
I mean,
that's only below the waist. Shush.
That's only below the waist. The joy of doing this job.
Oh. Stop it. Oh God. Okay, so I know that MeWe's going to go off on that one. Okay, and
Yep. I can already hear the tweets now.
Oh gosh, it's going to be bad. Okay, so we should be coming back from break in about another minute here. But yeah, so I will, because you're going to go through that. I'm going to talk. I want to mention something because I'm actually going through something similar that you just mentioned, Sam, about your child in the second grade.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got a child in the third grade. We were having such an issue.
In school?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Here you go. Hold on.
Let me finish up with what I was going to say, if you don't mind.
Not a problem at all. And we're back. This is Defenders Live. We've got Sam Sorbo on with us, and we want her to finish her thought. Sam.
This is what I wanted to say, because this is what I think this is the next level that people miss. When you drop your child off at school, you are tacitly admitting to the child that you are incapable because the school is going to take over now. And then the child comes home and the child says, Mommy, Mommy, or Daddy, Daddy, you have to sign this. The teacher says, you have to sign this, right? And you're a diligent parent and you say, okay, sweetheart, give that to me. I'll sign that. You just subverted your authority under the schools, under the teachers. From that, teacher's authority rules over yours. And if it doesn't, you have set up in your child's mind a conflict.
Yep.
How can I be under my parents' authority, but also be under the school's authority? And when those authority decisions conflict, that's a conflict in your child's mind. And if it happens early enough, it's not a good thing.
No.
So, and this is what they think, oh, well, how are we going to sort of undo what the school is doing or what's happening in the school, what the culture is pouring into the child? How can I undo it? You basically can't, because you've already ceded your authority in the child's mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just how it is. And so obviously Dylan was homeschooled. That is a blessing. We were homeschooling our kids up until this past year, and my wife was having some major issues, and so we couldn't keep up with everything at the time because I was crazy busy. Wife was having some problems with the kids and homeschooling, and so this past year, our two oldest, they went to school. They went to public school for the first year. Now I have one in third grade and one in pre-K. The pre-K one is simple; it's no big deal. But the third grade one, the things that I'm having issues with now are these teachers. They're coming through, and they're really nice people, but they'll have all this stuff on the records for one thing, and then they'll tell my wife, "Oh no, she's doing great. There's no problem. She's doing fine." And then when she'll come back and like half of her grades are bad or they're missing or things, we didn't even know that our kid was missing certain assignments, certain homeworks, until she got a report card back, and we were like, well, where is it? We saw you do it. Things that happened. We didn't know, and and the teachers told us what was going on. They didn't tell us that you needed to have this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And it just goes on and on and on, and now it's to a point to where it's
Here's the thing.
What the heck?
You think that if you drop your child off at school, the school will manage the education of the child.
Or at least help you.
All evidence to the contrary. Okay? Yeah. You're not actually saving anything.
Yeah.
When I decided to home educate my children, I saved myself making lunches every day, yelling at the children to get in the car on time so we wouldn't be late, waking them up in the morning, making sure that they, by the way, there's also this other level that we don't consider, that when the child comes home with homework, you become taskmaster. That subverts your role as the loving parent. You become the parent that yells at the child to get the work done, or maybe you don't yell, which would be better, obviously. But certainly, you become the taskmaster.
Yeah.
And now you're working for the school. You're employed. You're an employee of the school. So again, your authority
you have to be.
Is subjugated to that of the schools. So it sets up an entire scenario. Especially in the child's mind, maybe not in your mind, but certainly in the child's mind, that is in conflict with with what the child's world should be. Okay.
Yep.
You're not saving anything by putting your child in school. You would be better not teach. I mean, I'm going to say something radical. So I'll just, you'd be better just not teaching your child for a year. Just, let's take the year off. Here's some books to read. You need to read a book a week. Or you need to read 2 books a week, or whatever it is. Here's some books, and here's some math games for you to play. Like relax. It's not a race. And you know what? When I was potty training one of my kids, and I'm not going to say which one, but she didn't want to potty train. And it was frustrating. It was like, why isn't she just learning to use the toilet? She really did not want to use the toilet.
I completely understand. I'm just saying.
I finally said to myself, you know what? By the time she's 16, she'll know how to use the toilet.
And that's all that matters.
Your children are a gift from God. You don't give them to
sure.
somebody else to unwrap. You have to unwrap them yourselves. They're a gift to you, right? And I'll tell you, I'm a math person. I love math. I'm an engineer. It's just in my blood. And my daughter is not. And it is a challenge to me to figure out how to serve her in her artistic endeavors because I don't get it. But that's a challenge for me. That's not a point where I say, wow, I just have to pass her off to somebody else because I don't know what to do. No. My job is to come beside her and nurture her and learn what she needs so that I can provide it for her as her parent.
Exactly. Exactly. If the way I've come to know it, and this is going to sound a little bit like church, y'all. So hold on. But something I'd learned, and actually the fairly recent, is that when you're talking about the family dynamic, I mean that from a religious standpoint, that's your point of sanctification right there. I go big theological words here, but that's where you start really, if you really truly want to better yourself, that's where it happens. That's when you start realizing, like you were just saying, my kids learn very differently. I have a 5-year-old, and bless his heart, I have learned that I am severely lacking in patience, and when we will go over something, and it could be anything, and he will fry out the chute. He'll nail it like. I'm thinking, we could test him out. He's doing so good. And within 10 or 15 minutes, something will happen, and his brain will just shut down. And he will suddenly not remember anything, have no idea what we're doing, nothing. And I love him dearly, but he will stare at me as a deer in headlights. And then I have to then learn, and it's taken some bits, but I have to learn that I can't, get frustrated with him because he's 5. He's learning. He doesn't learn the same as my oldest, who's 10. And you really learn who you are and where you need to change to better serve your family.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we stress ourselves out. Like, oh, my children will never be concert pianists. I would love it if they were, but they're not. Okay,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm giving up on that. Not that I ever really had that dream, but why? It is a ruse. It's a phony thing that the educational bureaucracy has sort of instilled in us.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow we have to jump through these hoops. But I tell you, especially now that we're seeing the chinks in the armor of the upper education, right? The upper level education, the Ivy League universities and all that, and kids graduating and not being able to hold down a job, not knowing how to balance their checkbook, not knowing just basic life skills, because our education institutions were too busy teaching them about sex to teach them about civics, right? We need to revamp the way we think about education in this country. And parents, you need to revamp the way you think about success. Success is not college prep and career readiness. Success is not about just getting a good job, working for the man for the rest of your life. Your child may have 5 different careers by the time he's 30. Mm-hmm. You need to raise a lifelong learner. You need to teach your children the joy of learning. And you know where you learn to love learning? It's not inside the institution. I guarantee you that.
Yep. That's true. That's true. I mean, one of the best ways that you can learn is through communication. And one of the best ways that you can communicate is through Patriot Mobile.
We love Patriot Mobile.
Patriot Mobile is amazing. It's America's only conservative cell phone company out there. It is doing the exact opposite of all of those crazy, big, liberal, progressive causes. See, if you're fed up with the disgusting policies like the New York abortion laws, like the gun control plans, like the systems that are taking over your kid's mind, maybe you can join the thousands of Americans using Patriot Mobile and get reliable nationwide coverage and watch your hard-earned dollars fight for your First and Second Amendment rights, your border security, and your sanctity of life. Veteran-led Patriot Mobile donates a portion of every bill to conservative causes like the Foundation, the NRA, the Susan B. Anthony List, and so much more. Switching to Patriot Mobile cannot be easier. With its unlimited talk-to-text plan starting as low as $20 a month. If you need more motivation, use the code DOC. Use the promo code DOC when you call 1-800-A-PATRIOT or visit them online at patriotmobile.com/DOC. That's patriotmobile.com/DOC or call them at 1-800-A-PATRIOT. Use the promo code DOC and you get up to 2 activation fees waived on the spot. Enough is enough. Join Patriot Mobile today.
Today. Don't wait.
And so, anyway, yeah, we have these things, and with this homeschool kick, I know we're kind of stuck on it for a minute, but with this homeschool kick and everything going on, how do you transition a kid back over to homeschool? How do you really get them back into that thing? I know you went from second grade and over and pulled them out. Is it just a matter of pulling them out, or did you have a plan going into it, or what was really going on?
My next book is going to be tips on parenting. Because for some reason we've forgotten how to be parent, like just as a culture, as a society, we've forgotten how to be parents. We're trying to be buddies or something. Mm-hmm. And I know that a lot of people have pointed that out before. But for instance, manipulation is a great parenting tool. When I decided that I was going to look into homeschool, and I started to really believe that it was going to be my choice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I started preparing my children. I would take them to school in the morning, and I would say, if you were homeschooled, we wouldn't be up this early because there's no reason for us to get up this early except that you got to get to school on time. Right. And when I'd pick them up from school, I'd say, if you were homeschooled, you'd already have finished all your work for the day, and you'd just be out playing instead of now having to go home and do homework.
Mm-hmm. I did that too.
And so by the end of the summer, my kids were like, Mom, are we going to homeschool? We should homeschool. Isn't that what we're going to do? Is that what we're going to do? That would be great.
I did that too. I did that to my kids
you're
too.
The parent. You're the parent. Set your child up for success. Set your child up for enjoyment. Mm-hmm. Set your child up to be someone who you're close to, that you have these big conversations. And, I was talking the other day about how we talk down to our children.
Yeah.
We have to stop that.
Yeah.
I understand that you don't want to have, And by the way, you're going to be having parents, when you put your children in school, rest assured, you'll be having the sex talk with your kindergartners pretty soon because they're already doing it in California.
Yes.
They've got this whole new curriculum going into the schools. There are certain talks that you want to, be careful about, obviously, with having with your young people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason to dumb down your language and to shy away from just having adult conversations with your children. You can have conversations like, what did you think about school today? How do you think you would feel if you didn't have to go to school? Like, have those conversations with you. Involve your children in these decisions. You don't give them control.
Right.
You never cede your authority to your child, but you certainly give them the sense that they have a stake in this, that they have maybe not a full say. I mean, look, the number of times my child said, I'm quitting piano, I don't want to play piano, and I'd say, oh, that's fun, that's funny. No, you're going to still play piano. Like that's okay. And at the same time, you can find moments where your child can win, and you offer them the win. You don't tell them that you're doing it on purpose, but you allow so that they get the idea that sometimes they have autonomy and sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
something
ways of going about this that are winning solutions for you with your child. But I'll tell you, you're setting up your relationship failure by enrolling your children in a public school.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree because I definitely feel it. When my kid comes home or when I get home, my kid has already been home for about an hour after she gets in. And what happens? I get home and I immediately have to be the disciplinarian in the house. He's like, have you done this? 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 It's like I'm a constant repetitious nothing. And it drills us both.
Well, it's not fun.
No, it burns us both out.
Well, and I've never grasped the idea of why you send your child to school for 8 hours and then they're bringing home more work. I'm sorry, but you had 8 hours with my kid, 10 hours in some cases, depending on so like me and my wife used to have before school care and after school care. You mean to tell me that in that time frame, there wasn't enough time for these kids to get this stuff done? Why are you sending them home with this?
What does that tell you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it tells you
exactly.
That the schools are not about education anymore.
No, and we're doing predominantly most of it anyway.
Colleges.
Like you said, to make sure to do the homework, we're having to stand over them anyway. So why not eliminate the middleman and do it from the beginning?
Yep.
This is what I say to parents. If you do homework with your child, you're homeschooling. You're just doing it at the end of the day when everybody's tired and cranky and hungry.
Yep.
So let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
That's always the problem. It's always the problem. Well, like, and the thing of it is going back to the higher education part of it. Something that my wife works for a dental school, a trade dental school, where instead of and it's for dental assisting actually. So instead of going to a community college or to a major college to try and get into the dental assisting program where you do all these prerequisites and for some dumb reason trying to figure out what a Southern culture class has to do with helping to learn to clean someone's teeth. Mm-hmm. But she does it from the trade school side, and it's something that I've always been a fan of it to begin with, but really seeing it from her end, I've told people constantly, I was like, I'm hoping to God my kids don't go to a college because there's so many actual trade schools to get you where you want to be. And most people don't even bother to think to look at them. They go, well, no, in order to do X, Y, and Z, I have to go to such and such Ivy League college and accrue X amount of debt in order to make it, air quotes.
Right.
Yep.
It's. I'm so sorry. That just throws me really bad.
It burns you, right? So for those parents out there with kids that are still in age, I'm not saying for me in particular because right now I'm still trying to convince the wife back to doing it. Maybe she's gonna be listening to. Maybe she'll listen to this again after everything's done, and it might convince her to go back to it. But maybe. What are some curriculums that you trusted as going through, or did you trust curriculums? How did you kind of work through the homeschool sets?
So the first thing that I tell parents is find a homeschool group in your neighborhood, go to a homeschool park day, get to know other homeschoolers in the area. And actually, I misspoke, because the first thing I told them is to go get my book. Because I have a lot of answers in my book. And in fact, I think the last chapter is basically the different questions, the top 10 questions that parents ask me right off the bat, and my answers. I personally follow Classical Conversations. I'm a huge fan. It works great for my family. But every family is different, and every parent is different as a teacher. And so sometimes it's a lot more hit or miss with finding a curriculum that works for you. I did Shirley Grammar. That stood us in very good stead because it's a great beginner course with grammar, and it goes all the way through. And so you as a parent can relearn your grammar along with your students. And that's, people, here's the thing. Parents say to me, I could never. They typically, their objection isn't, I don't want to. Although sometimes it does boil down to, well, I just don't want to. I just don't feel like, putting my time there. Yep. But typically their initial response is, I could never. I don't know what I'm doing. And here's the problem with that. You don't have to know what you're doing. But because we all went to public school, we were taught that you had to be taught how to do everything. Right? There's a lot of stuff that no one taught you how to do, that you either found somebody to tutor you when you needed to, like your first house, the first time you buy a house, right? Right. That has its own grammar, its own language to it, its own protocols, and things that you had to learn the first time you did that. Or how to work on your car or whatever. You figured it out. You didn't necessarily go to a shape class to learn how to change the oil in your car. You asked somebody to show you, and then you learned how to do it. We're so stuck on, I didn't go to school for that. I don't know how to do it. And so what I say to parents is, you feel inadequate. Did you graduate high school? Yes, I did. And I say, but you feel inadequate to teach your third grader. Yeah. And yet, you're willing to send your beloved offspring into the same system, arguably worse now, that turned out the likes of you, somebody inadequate to teaching a third grader. I mean, think about that.
It's fun. Works, right?
Continue that cycle. That's, smooth move. I had that same conversation with my wife.
I wish that people felt more powerful, more able, and it's amazing to me because we are the can-do country. America is the home of the brave. I mean, we're the entrepreneur spirit. The entrepreneurial spirit is, I can do anything. I'm just going to go try to do it. And if I fail, I'll pick myself up and I'll do it again. Why can't we apply that to our most important, our most important relationships, our most beloved little ones, right?
Yeah. Well, we've stopped.
And I tell parents, you're not supposed to know everything. Yeah. You're supposed to be the lead learner for your child. When your child comes to you and says, why are frogs green? You're not supposed to say, well, because the combination of amino acids in the frog's skin or whatever. You're supposed to say, I don't know. Let's go find out. And you know what's great now? We have the internet. All this information at your fingertips. You just have to be interested.
Let's figure it out.
So let's be interested in our children.
Yeah. We've given up. That's I was say that goes back to it. We've stopped being parents, and we've stopped passing things on. Like there was a stretch. I was reading a book, a father book, a long time ago, and basically one of the things that we kept talking about was going back. The author had mentioned how his great grandfather had passed it down to his grandfather and passed that down to his dad, and his dad passed it on to him. And we don't do a lot of that anymore. No, we've stopped with family tradition, and this covers everything. But we've stopped with family traditions. We've stopped with, being the responsible one, being that first line of the teaching the child, whatever it is. It was always a dad or somebody would take the son fishing and teach him how to fish, or teach him how to change oil, and how did he learn it? He learned it from his grandpa, and his grandpa learned it. And we've stopped caring. We've been suckered into these labels of where we need to, well, this is what's expected to be a proper parent, is you let your child express himself however he wants to, and you don't object, and blah, blah, blah. And you let this, and like you said, you let the schools do what they want to, and so forth and so on, that we've just given up. And it really bothers me. There's times like I feel, like I said, going back to being, the awkward glances I get for telling people that I'm a 37-year-old homeschool guy who stays at home and homeschools his children. I wish I could kind of like just snap a picture of it and just pass it around to people, because it is the most amazing look of astonishment and bewilderment. It's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I can do what I want to. My kids are, we're getting ready to take the month of March off, or excuse me, the month of April off. Why? Because I can. And I get these looks.
And nobody can say anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me. You could have this pleasure too if you would just take your responsibility back. But they don't want to. Take your responsibility
and shove it.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That's just wrong.
Oh, I don't know.
You're right. That is wrong. I shouldn't have said
that. But I wish we could go back to those days of, teaching our kids vital life lessons. How to be self-sufficient, how to budget a book.
There's a very vibrant homeschool community throughout this nation now, and it's getting stronger because of the overreaches of the leftist Marxists that are in our institutions and all of our institutions, frankly.
Darn right.
We're verging on being overrun by them, and the good news is they have now reached so far that they're admitting that they're for killing babies and taking away your guns, and they all now want universal health care, single-payer health care, which means no option for you. So whatever the government says, that's the health care you're going to have. And the government's, of course, going to tell you that they're going to give you great health care, but I need only point to the VA to tell you how badly this could go. And so the good news is that I think there's going to be a resurgence now of conservatism, which is kind of exciting, and I'm seeing it in our youth. Now, of course, my oldest is staunchly conservative. He's 17. He does now public speaking. He's got I should plug his podcast. He's doing a podcast now called Mindset with Braden and Victoria.
Nice.
He's got a co-host on there, and they do 5 to 15-minute episodes of politics for younger people, for Gen Z, basically. So that's very exciting. So there is hope on the horizon, and what I really love is the hope that the left is giving me, that they're eating each other now. So Deborah Messing tweeted something about, it was fairly disgusting, but she tweeted something about International Women's Day, and the trans went after her and said, "How dare you? Some women don't have female body parts." Yeah. Oh, I'm so terribly sorry. That's not what I meant. I didn't mean to offend, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got Beto, who speaks about his wife, and the left comes down on him. How dare you call her your wife and talk about her in that way? And mind you, I haven't heard it yet, but I dare say that I'm after him, because the video that he used to launch his campaign, he had her sitting next to him saying not a word, just as a female should be treated.
Wait, you mean
she
was basically like his dog?
And I'm excited about it. And Ocasio-Cortez, who I like to call Commie Cortez because she's a communist, and I don't care what adjective you put in front of socialism, nothing is going to make that taste any better. It's communism, pure and simple. And here's a girl who has done nothing. She was a bartender, and she proposes to tell us how to spend our money.
Yeah.
This is the greatest hubris. This is so unbelievable. I had Andy Puzder on the show today, and he's done a couple of videos now for PragerU talking about how absurd her comments are, how unwitting she is about the economy, and yet she purports to know all of this. She purports to be this genius about the economy. Do you know how much the new Green Deal will cost? I'll tell you. The figure is everything. It will cost everything because the moment you implement it, you tank the entire economy. There will not be enough money to pay for it.
Well, Sam, you are correct. You are absolutely correct. And our show already come to its end. Crazy to think about it. It went by very, very quickly. Sam Sorbo, everybody can find her on this channel, Mojo 50 Radio.
Yep.
Was that
Thanks,
3 to
guys.
5? 3 to 5 a yes? 3 p.m. Yeah.
Yep.
3 to 5. A
3 to
daily
5.
3 to 5, yeah.
3 to 5 daily
Outstanding.
on Mojo 50. This has been Defenders Live, DOAEshow.com, DOAEshow.com. Go to the shop. Get your Jackhole Nation gear today. Also, go to catcoolers.com. Use the promo code Steven. Get 10% off of their rugged, wonderful, made in America, customized cat coolers. Get them a day. Bye-bye.